Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Newswipe, a programme all about what's been happening, like this. Police caught out by 150-year-old invention called photography. Newscast from old Godzilla movie announces glorious missile launch orchestrated by Yoda. And brave crew managed to expel unwanted seamen.
Latest reports suggest they've now beaten off the pirates.
But we're not starting with that, we're starting here. You know how nerve-wracking it can be hosting a party. First you sit around wondering if anyone's going to show up, and then when they do, you've suddenly got to deal with all these disparate groups of bloody friends who've never met before, and you have to make bloody small talk with them all until you lose all sense of your own identity, and then the nerves get to you and you drink too much and you wind up making an embarrassing bloody spectacle of yourself. Or is that just me? Anyway, the other week, Prime Minister Gordon Brown, or Prime Minister Gordon Brown as we like to call him, had to throw the most important party of his life, the G20 summit. In case you're wondering, the G20 actually consists of 29 of the world's largest economies, so it's good to see they can count. Anyway, these 29 economic groups have banded together to refer to themselves by the gangster rap nickname of G. Why? Because they think it makes them sound cool. It's grown in size over the years. Last time it was the G10, before that the G8, the G5, and of course the worst incarnation, G4, seen here turning TOTP into an audio blast of silage.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you.
The point of the summit, of course, was to reach an international consensus on how to save the world from Money-geddon, the crisis no one really understands. And they possibly don't really understand it because the experts wheeled out to explain it are so uneasy on the eye, it's hard to listen to what they're saying or even tell them apart. Even Channel 4 News didn't know which ugly financial blood to cut to.
Hernando de Soto, where are you on fiscal stimulus?
Well, I think fiscal stimulus is something that has to be done.
And when they do cut to the right one, said expert tends to say something like, oh, it's very simple, and then immediately follow that up by saying something that doesn't make any sense to human ears.
It's very simple. The Bank of International Settlements recently said that they figured that there was about $1,200 trillion worth of this paper, which is a semi-liquid paper.
What does that mean? Even financial expert Will Hutton has to laugh nihilistically in the face of this madness. Come the big day itself, the news solved the problem of keeping the viewer interested in the notoriously dry and impenetrable subject of global macroeconomics in the simplest way possible, by not really bothering. Instead, it largely concerned itself with repeatedly coming in its pants about Saint and Saintess Obama. Every aspect of Barack's Guitar Hero World Tour was covered in breathless detail. First, GMTV told us he'd arrive in a flurry of bad clip art. This is like an old Amiga game or something. And Channel 4 News breathlessly pored over every detail of his Super Knight Rider-style Death Race 2000 mega car, the Beast.
On board the car they call the Beast, defence systems are said to include pump-action shotguns, night vision cameras and tear gas cannons.
This is basically hardcore pornography for people who really love cars.
The wheels are reportedly Kevlar reinforced with steel rims to allow driving even without tyres.
Meanwhile, Downing Street did its best to impress Obama by rolling out the red carpet, even if it did take 5 British workmen to fit the thing. As the next morning dawned, if you tuned into BBC Breakfast looking for local or travel news, you could just about fuck off.
If you've just joined us, you're waiting to see your local news and travel summary, then apologies, but we are following the breaking news story.
Because they were busy training their cameras on a road St Obama might glide down any moment, but didn't.
Now they snuck out, somehow. Well, they must have an invisibility cloak or something like that, I should think.
Then there was a series of photo opportunities in which Brown tried to gesticulate in a commanding way.
Oh yes, if I wave my hand over here, I'll look like a man with vision. And now I'm pointing, which is all leaderly and stuff.
That was followed by a quick press conference stroke mutual blowjob contest. This sort of resembled a deleted podium love scene from Brokeback Mountain.
Your first 70 days in office have changed America.
Yeah.
And you've changed America's relationship with the world.
Oh, you're wonderful, Obama. Wonderful. Oh.
You're to be congratulated because you have shown extraordinary energy and leadership and initiative in laying the groundwork for this summit.
No, we're both wonderful. Oh, I wish I knew how to quit you. Oh, let's just go off and have a little wrestle, hey? Oh. Soon after Brown and Barack bigged up the G20, a cloud appeared on the horizon as German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French PM Nicolas Sarkozy, who's been up a supermodel yet still seems angry, called a press conference of their own with a slightly more negative hue. This largely consisted of whinging in exotic languages the BBC clearly hadn't expected them to use. Languages like German and French.
Präsidentschaft auch seitens der Europäischen Union gefordert wurde.
It seems that we may have to leave that for the moment.
Fortunately, before long the BBC found a translator, a lady who could undermine Nicolas Sarkozy in an amusing way by giving him a female voice.
Well, we're not pointing fingers. We're not fingering anyone.
Well, that's not very French. The next day brought the cosmetically boring yet important business of the G20 summit itself, held in the glamorous surroundings of the Sexy XL Centre in London's Docklands. Actually, is it just me, or does this footage make it look worryingly like the War Room from Stanley Kubrick's marvellous apocalyptic satire Dr. Strangelove?
That is precisely the idea.
Disappointingly, Sarkozy didn't storm out going honk-he-honk-he-honk as we'd been warned. In fact, it was the dullest party ever. Faced with that tedium, thank God for the saintly depiction of God's wife, Michelle Obama. The news just couldn't get enough of her.
Now, Michelle Obama's been in Britain for barely 36 hours, but it seems the nation has already fallen in love with her. Once again, she was the belle of the ball as she outshone the other First Ladies at a Downing Street dinner last night. There she is, looking gorgeous. She just gets it right every time, Michelle Obama.
Obama, you know, Barack, I don't know who I fancy more.
She wears so many vibrant colours, which again is very brave, isn't it?
It's a joy.
Oh, why don't you both just kiss her while I watch from inside a cupboard? Sky were all over Michelle Magdalene's visit to a school in Islington to heal the world by hugging it better, one photo opportunity at a time. This was so inspiring, the blessed receivers of the Bicep One's embrace were called to the studio the next day to relive the moment.
What was she like?
She was absolutely amazing. She really was. She was really pretty and warm and loving and welcoming and so nice.
Anyway, once the party itself was over, what had been decided? Well, no fiscal stimulus agreement, but there was some blah about clamping down on tax havens, some regulation and anti-protectionist promises. Oh, and a bit of half-hearted whiffle about the environment, which means we're probably all going to die. Still, the main headline was that $1.1 trillion was going to the IMF to help prevent developing nations and Iceland from collapsing. This was sort of good news for Gordon Brown, who could try and claim it as a victory, so he did.
This is the day that the world came together.
Yeah, on an economic biscuit. And then it was all over, apart from news footage of world leaders bagging themselves a fantastic Facebook profile snap in a group shot. Although the group shot actually had to be taken twice. First because the Canadian PM went off for a piss, and then because Italian PM Berlusconi went off for a shit out the window into the Thames like a horse. Anyway, for Gordon Brown at least, the G20 will chiefly be remembered for giving him a short-lived popularity boost.
Brown gets a bounce from the G20 summit.
Ah, brown pole, I see. It says there on the screen. Nothing funny there, I'm just pointing it out. It says brown pole on the screen. Brown pole. Brown pole.